Wait, what is this shit?
The Not Safe for F***ing Worker Placement podcast.
I flipped the board. I despise that game. Oh, shit. That sounds like... Oh, wait. Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast, a board game podcast brought to you by me, Leeandra.
And me, Ben.
We're a married couple, and we talk shit about board games.
Good job, baby.
Thanks, honey.
You did it. I almost lost it on that one.
Thanks, honey.
That was a few records it took to get that, but you did it perfectly there.
Thanks.
And what you don't know is that I recorded all the times that you screwed up, and we're going to play that at the end of the episode.
No.
No, you did great. All right, episode 5, babe. We're halfway to double digits. What do you think about that?
I think that's exciting.
Super exciting. You're so stressed out right now,
I
aren't you?
am. My shot of whatever we had. We have a ritual every episode. We take a shot before we start the episode. So my shot of whatever I had has not kicked in yet.
Yes, it has. It was, what was it? It was Jameson Caskmates whiskey. Yeah. But I had you to do the intro instead of me. And like me, sometimes it kind of went off the rails a little. Anyway, episode 5, off and running. We are the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast, and you can find us on the web at nsfwppodcast.com, on Twitter at nsfwppodcast, and on Facebook, NSFWP podcast. And also, I would like to announce that we are now on iTunes and the iTunes podcast app. You have to search for the full Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast. I tried to put NSFWP and it did not take it for some weird reason. There's lots of stipulations on what you can and can't do on iTunes. So anyway, if you search that, you'll find it and you can subscribe. Also, I'd like to invite anyone to join our BGG guild. It's guild number 2991. And I do believe that is all of our business. So what's been going on lately, babe?
Oh, working. That's really about it. We took yesterday off. That was so nice.
Yes, Sunday we did.
House. Oh.
We did nothing. Well, you didn't. I had to leave the house for a little bit, but you didn't even get out of your PJs.
I didn't all day. It was glorious.
That was your mission, and mission accomplished.
Yes.
And we played a couple of games yesterday.
We did.
So a couple of games of one game. I think first we're going to definitely talk about what we played, but I'm also going to bring up something that has come to my attention. On our 3rd episode, I went off on a bit of a rant, as I tend to do sometimes. And I started talking about the need to separate the art from the artist. You remember this?
I do.
I mean, not necessarily the need, but the how do we do that, or should we do that, and can we do that? Because I was talking about H.P. Lovecraft and how I didn't like him as a person, but I liked the things that he created. And on our website, we got a comment. And on full disclosure, I know who put this comment on there. It was an anonymous comment. I know who it was, and I actually asked them to put it on there because they had sent it to me privately, and their concern was that my comments could be misconstrued. We definitely exist on the internet now, obviously, because we've been accused of racism. That's the headline, but not really. I'm going to go ahead and read the comment. I asked him to go ahead and put his thoughts online so that we could share them with everyone, because, I mean, we don't want to shrink away from something like this. I think it's important. So the comment was this, from anonymous listener. Hi, Ben. Just a thought on your Lovecraft rant. After the first part of slamming Hitler and Lovecraft as horrible racist xenophobes, true in parentheses, then you start mentioning famous people, O.J., Cosby, and Michael Jackson, all of whom are black. That were found innocent, even though we know they were guilty. That's all in quotation marks. I don't think that you have a prejudice regarding race, but I can see how a person might wonder based on that section. Just mentioning it, keep up the good work. Okay, and then you can read my response back on the website if you want to do that on episode 3 comments. But I would think it's important to bring that up because I don't want to come off in that way. I don't think there's anything more gauche than somebody trying to tell you that they're not racist. I don't think that works. I think that's pretty stupid. So I want my whole life and personality to stand to show that I'm not racist. But in these comments, exactly what was happening was I brought up examples of people who I had idolized when I was young. OJ in particular, he was kind of just a toss-in. Maybe that was in bad form because he didn't really support my point. But Michael Jackson and Cosby.
But he did support your point. He was a very famous football player.
To some people, yeah. I mean, I'm not a Bills fan. I don't really care about OJ's career in movies or football or anything. He was just one. I kind of strayed from my point with him. But with Michael Jackson and Cosby,
you were a huge MJ fan.
I was super big in, everybody was a Bill Cosby fan, and I was a huge Michael Jackson fan when I was a kid, and our kid is a huge Michael Jackson fan. That's why that was a thing that I tried to draw a parallel between those two. And the fact that they're African American never even crossed my mind,
Mine either.
And in the same thing, I listened back and I was like, and in the same breath, I mentioned Will Smith as a person that I like her watching, old Fresh Prince,
yeah.
And I didn't even consider the fact that he's African American.
Nope.
So, there were good things brought up about African Americans. There were bad things brought up about African Americans, but they weren't brought up because they were African American. They were brought up because they were people that I idolized and that let me down or didn't let me down. So, I mean, I understand where someone could target that and take that out of context and say you only talked about black people in the segment, therefore racism. I don't see it that way. I see it as I'm a person who never even thought about it that way.
It never even crossed our minds. It wasn't even about color. It was, these are people that we, obviously you are a humongous Michael Jackson fan. You know what I mean? So these are people that you idolized when you were a kid. Their color never even crossed our minds when you're talking about that. So, we apologize if we offended anybody, but, that was the farthest thing. It was more about, these people were a huge part of you growing up as a child. And that's why they got brought up. So,
if it's taken in bad or to consider to be in bad taste or anything, I would apologize for that, but I wouldn't apologize for anything I said because I didn't mean anything obviously racist by it. And, it points to something that we live in a watchdog culture, which I kind of support. The internet has brought a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. And one thing that you have to try to differentiate between is it's good that we have a watchdog mentality because it calls out a lot of shit that people have been getting away with for the, the history of the world until the internet. And it allows us to call that out and bring attention to it. And I can't hide in the dark anymore. But also, if you're on the internet, you're doing one of two things. You're either being racist or telling somebody else that they're racist. That's kind of what the internet exists for anymore. And
today, unfortunately, that's
we have
true.
To be careful we have to not confuse the intention and try to throw our allies under the bus, So anyway, I'll tell you right now, my position on race,
love everybody,
gender neutrality, or however you would say that, like gender rights, gender fluidity, LGBT rights, all that. I am about as bleeding heart liberal as you can get. Like it or love it. That's just the way I am. And the last thing I want is for anyone to think that that's where I'm coming from, because I'm definitely not coming from that type of place. So again, I may make some statements like that in the future that I would, if I talk about all white people, like I could have said, Kramer, Michael Richards was an example of this, but I've never been a huge Kramer fan, so I couldn't say this guy really let me down by being racist, No, he didn't let me down. He just showed his true colors, I didn't care. So anyway, that's the whole racism angle from episode 3. If you happen to think that, then I just wanted to clear that up. So hopefully we'll put that to rest. And now we'll move on to games that we've been playing.
All right.
What a transition.
Yes.
So
halting stop.
Well, I think it's important to bring up.
It is important.
If we're gonna be a podcast that talks a wide range of things and about real life and real things, then I want to be transparent in that, And if I said something that could be construed as bad, I want to straighten my position on it.
I agree, and we're teaching our daughter. She's seeing what's going on in this world, and you and I are her example, and we're teaching her. You love everybody, no matter what color, no matter who they love, no matter how they feel inside. It doesn't matter. If they're good to you, you be good to them. You love everybody no matter what.
Absolutely. I think it's a perfect position to come from. And if everybody did that, we'd be in a lot better place. So games that we've been playing.
Yes.
Let's do this.
Okay.
No, I love it. We have been super busy because work has been crazy for both of us.
Yes.
And so this is the end of the podcast. We haven't played any games. No, I'm kidding. We actually, did you said, hey, let's play a game earlier in the week, and you wanted to play. I do believe we played Dead Man's Draw, right? We weren't even going to talk about that, but we did play that.
I love Dead Man's Draw.
It's by Mayday Games, and I think that's who it's by. Anyway, I don't know. It's by somebody, and it's a push your luck card game in the truest sense of the word, right? How do you play the game? Why don't you tell us?
Well, there's different pictures on the cards. There's anchors and oracles. Is that how you pronounce that word?
Yeah, there's a crystal ball.
Yeah. And anyway, and so they all have different powers. And so when you draw one, you have to fulfill the power that goes with it. And then if you get the same symbol or the same picture, then you've busted. But you can stop at any point. And once you stop, you can bank those cards. And then at the end of the game, each card, depending on how you play, either you can take the topmost point for each.
The highest point total card.
Of each type, or you add them all up, just depending on what.
There's cards that like say maybe you're trying to get the least points, or maybe you're trying, without busting or stuff like that. There's a lot of different ways you can play it. Like there's special powers you can hand out to everybody.
It's just a really easy, doesn't take a lot of thought. Like it's just a fun little, let's just sit down at the table upstairs and just play a game. I really enjoy it.
It's a really good game. I wish it played more than 4 people, honestly. It'd be really cool if it was like a 6-player game, but it's a really good game. And so we played that first of all, and I almost had forgotten about that one. Then I brought out a new one that I had gotten at the last convention I was at called Honshu, and that's by Renegade Games and designed by Kale Malhamoija. That's an extremely good pronunciation, I would have to say. That was
pretty good.
I have no idea.
I'm pretty impressed.
So Honshu is a cool little card game.
Did I ever win one at all?
No, I don't think you've won it yet. I think you're still... let me talk about what it is, and then you can talk about... I'll tell you why you haven't won yet.
Oh, thanks.
Well, here's... Honshu is like... It's a abstracted city building game made out of just a deck of cards and some cubes. They call it a trick-taking game, even though the trick-taking aspect is very, very limited. It's very... So how it works is everyone gets a hand of cards, and in a 4-player game, what happens is everyone gets their hands of cards, and starting with a random start player, they put down one of their cards. Then everyone else either has to beat that number that's on the card. The cards have double uses. They have numbers, and then they have like the little city features. So you put down your card number, and then everyone else has to, put down their card number. Whoever wins it gets to pick from the 4 cards out there. And then you take one card. So every turn you're playing a card, and then you're taking a card. And you're placing that card in front of you and starting to build a city. And the one rule is you have to either overlap or underlap your starting city card.
And you can't cover up any water.
So the 4 feature types are city, water, desert, and trees. And then there's a 5th thing, which is different factories and resources. So everyone gets a resource at the beginning on their starting tile, and that's a cube. And there's fish and gold and stone and gold.
You already said gold.
I said gold. Yeah, I think that's it. Fish, gold,
and the blue one.
Yeah, that's fish.
Oh.
Fish, gold, and stone. And then there are factories that need to be powered at the end of the game with those types of resources.
We're missing one. There was blue, red, gray, and yellow.
Oh, and brown, I think.
Yeah.
There's brown. I don't know what it is. But anyway, so you get those resources from your resource production cards, and then you have to overlap or underlap a card and build your thing out. And now it scores differently depending on what kind of bonus cards you draw.
Factories worth more.
Factories can be worth more, or doubled up on, or trees can be worth more, water can be worth more. But basically, you score points for the different types. Your biggest city, your trees score a certain amount of points, and you're just trying to build the best city and try to, position these cards that you get and try to bid for the cards that you really need. So you might take a card out of your hand that you really want to get back, but it's a low number. Now, what you can do in a 4-player game, you can use one of your resource cubes to bump your score up on your card by 60. In a 2-player game like we played, you have to get rid of 2 resources, and then you can just take the first play. You can just take the first pick. So you can guarantee, if you're willing to give up some resources, you can guarantee to get the card you want. So I think the reason why I think you like this game, well, you tell me, do you like this game?
I do, but now that you're telling me why you're going to tell me I'm losing.
No, I think that you
Why am I losing, my love?
I think that you overthink it. You sit there for it's kind of a I think there's a definite strategy to go for the best ways to win.
I always try for trees.
Trees are okay, but you got to think about the variety. I think the most common feature on the cards is cities. So I always try to go for the biggest city. And if you do that, it opens up other things. Then you can try to go for it. Like you've always negated water. You've not done any water features yet since in the 2 games we played. And so the 2 times I've won, I think I've won just by having a little bit of a lake.
Yeah, you literally won by 1 lake last time.
Yeah. So I think you overthink it. And when you do that, you forget like a whole part of the game. Like, you know what I mean? You get so focused on...
You don't know me.
You get so focused on getting your trees and not covering up any of your trees, you know, that you forget that, oh, I could have got a water one there and scored a quick
what's
quick
the
point.
next game? I like this game. I mean, even though obviously I'm not very good at it, apparently, and I don't win.
You barely lost. You've lost by a very low
and I
number.
don't win. But that's saying a lot for me that I don't win and I've played again.
That's your battle cry.
That is my battle cry. If I don't win and I play again, I really liked it.
Yeah. So Honshu by Renegade Games, I think it's a lot of game packed in a little tiny box. Like for what it is, for just being a deck of cards and some cubes, there's a lot of game in there, you know. So you could get very, very highly strategic and look at what everybody else is doing and try to play against them.
That has screwed me more times than once. Like, I'm not paying attention to the cards that I'm taking, and then I'm leaving you
with what
you need, because I ain't looking at your damn hand. I don't know. You know, I'm just focusing.
Yeah,
I'm overthinking my own hand.
You have to look at your city and what they're going for. Yeah, because I can think, well, I can look over at your thing and say, okay, she's producing 3 gold, but she doesn't have any gold factories. So if I lay this gold factory out there, I know she's going to take it, which might be good for me because I don't need it and I want that other card. So if I put that out there, she's going to go for it and will leave me this other card that I want. You know, stuff like that. You could really think it out like that, or you could just play it, you know, loosey-goosey, however you want, which is interesting. I like that. It's deeper than it looks for a short, small game. And so we played that twice, I think, in a couple of different nights. And then we had our big lazy Sunday.
We did.
So on that big lazy Sunday, I had plans for it. I had plans to trick my wife.
You did.
Into playing what has been described as one of the hardest games to learn.
He did not tell me this until after I learned it.
I heard Edward.
And won it the first time.
You did. Edward on a Heavy Cardboard podcast, who loves heavy games. Their whole podcast is all about heavy games. In their episode about Vinhos, said that this is the hardest game he's ever had to learn and teach. And I thought, shit, how am I going to teach this game? But I really, really went over the rules and I really knew them pretty well.
You did.
And I understood how the game worked.
I think you only had to refer back to the rule book like one time.
A couple of times,
pretty
but
good.
just to make sure that I knew. But basically, Vinhos is a wine making game, which is why I knew that if I didn't mention anything about how hard it was, that Leeandra would be into it. So I showed her the box. I'm like, look what I got, babe. And she was like, ooh, we're going to play that, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to play that tomorrow. I did not breathe a word about how hard it was going to be because I knew she would understand it. I knew that once the hard thing is learning it and figuring it out of the rule book. The rule book is good, but man, there's a lot going on in this game. So tell us a little bit about Vinhos and how it's played. I'll give you 2 minutes to explain this game.
Oh, stop it. 5 minutes and 19 seconds.
14 seconds.
14 seconds,
it's
sorry.
impossible for this game.
It would be, yes. So you make wine and you sell wine and there's so many different things that you can do to make this happen. One of the things that I thought that was most challenging in this game is you can't freaking get money. It's so hard.
Money is super
to make
tight.
money. Like, and then you have your bank account and then you have your cash, and you need cash to do stuff with to be able to buy more vineyards and buy more wineries and buy cellars. But you can't buy that stuff with your bank account. You have to have cash. Then you have to sell your little itty bitty wine pieces to make money on the bank, and then you have to go to the bank and then withdraw it, and you only have 12 moves. You have 12 moves
throughout the whole game
for the whole entire game. 12. That's
12
it.
actions.
That's not very many
Well,
actions.
that's why the specialist exists. What we learned later that the key is to get as many actions as you can. You basically are going to have 12, and then there's ways to get these bonus actions. We learned that you have to produce a bunch of excess wine in order to give away to these specialists, or what are they called, managers, I think, in order to get favors from them, which is extra actions.
So I tried two different ways. So the first time we played, I didn't know how to play. I was learning, and one of my little vineyard thingies was completely tapped out. Like, I had 2 wineries on there. I had a cellar. I had it just completely pimped out. And then we had one little shit toss one that you just made just to fill the managers, to get extra modes. So, and I won that game. And then the second game, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try a different way, a different strategy. And then I got 3 different vineyards, and none of them were pimped, and I lost.
Yeah, you were producing
really small,
low quality
shitty things.
wine.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know the perfect strategy, because like only playing it, this is a game you'd have to play it 10 times in order to figure out, because there are so many things you can do, so many different kinds. Every type of vineyard that you buy has a special ability on it, which can give you stuff or give you points. What did you think? I thought the big kicker in the game was
whenever you tried to screw me over. So the first game,
you've been waiting to say this.
I have been.
And it's bullshit all the way around.
It's not bullshit. No, the first game, I had no idea what I was doing. My sweet little husband, teaching me how to play. And then I'm like, babe, I don't know what to do. And so he's like, here, you should go here and then go here. I don't even know what the damn moves were.
The whole point was, you needed money. You said,
how
can I get money?
Yes.
And
that's
I told
right.
you the only ways you could get money.
You went to the effing bank afterwards. So he's like, you should do this, and that way your very next turn, you can go to the bank. Well, if you go to a place that already has someone, you have to pay extra money. And so $1,000. And so he's like, here, honey, you should go here, sell some wine. That way you get some money in the bank account. And then your next turn, go to the bank and withdraw that money. That way you have cash. Well, yeah, I went ahead and sold my wine, and then I'm ready to go to the bank, and this guy goes to the bank, and then I had to pay him $1,000 for me to go to the bank on the next turn.
But your accusation is that I gave you that advice knowing what I was going to do.
Yes, you knew. You got an extra $1,000 out of me.
No, the truth was, I had not even thought about my next move. I was busy trying to help you with your move. And it just so happened that once I had told you, once we had decided together that was your best move, I looked at my options and was like, I can do nothing. I have no money.
I have to go to the bank and screw thy wife.
There was no action I could do except go where you were and give you money, or go ahead and go somewhere. That sounds like a much better
option. You should have gone where I was to give me money.
From my point of view, that looked terrible. So I thought it was much better for me to go ahead and get the money that I needed in order for the next turn, and then as an added bonus, you were going to have to give me $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
But it never crossed my mind before, and you are accusing me falsely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let it be known that you won that game. So I don't know how I screwed you so many times in that game, yet you won, because I did not take back a move at the end of the game that I wanted to take back, which would have won the game for me.
Well, no, back the hell up. You wanted to go back like 2 moves and change your decision.
But earlier in the game, I had let you do that exact same thing.
It wasn't 2 moves later.
It was exactly.
I think your memory is faulty.
It was exactly the same thing, because what happens is the real crux of this game.
And it was the last move of the game. You cannot take the last move of the game and go, oh, well, this will get me more points.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go ahead and change that back in for a blue token 3 moves earlier. It was the last move of the game.
Well, I didn't do it, first of all, but earlier in the game, I let you do that exact same thing.
But you had said, I'm only not doing it because I don't want to hear you cry.
That's true. I did not want to hear you say that I screwed you again. But anyway, I didn't do the right move, and it was stupid of me. So I just decided, well, hey, next time I won't make that mistake. And then we played again, and I did not make the same mistake.
You did not, and you won fair and square.
And I crushed you.
You did not crush me. We won.
It was almost exactly the same score.
It was the same
reversed.
exact score.
It was just reversed.
I think it was like 10 points each.
15 points, I think, both ways. And Yeah, and the whole crux of this game comes down to the wine fair. Like,
see, yes, the wine fair, and also I realized in the second game, because I had such crappy producing wine, that I had my special powers for my managers. Like, if I hadn't had those extra powers that were giving, I locked in those pieces on. Okay, well, this guy gets me 4 extra pieces, and having a cellar gets me 4, and this
$4 for your wine, for your cellars, and 4 points for your. I
think I got like an extra 20 points just on that stuff at the end of the game.
It was probably 10 or 12 at least. Yeah, you were way behind until you did that, and I only got 4 extra off of that, and you got like 12, I think. So
I think it was more than 12.
It was quite a bit. It wasn't enough to win, so that's all I know. But there's so many ways to go about it at that game, and that's what I think is cool about it. So you could play every game, because what we did basically was just swap starting positions in the 2 different games. We took the exact opposite wine that we took the time before, and you took the opposite one that you took. So we ended up starting out just completely flip-flopped.
And
then it ended up the same way. But I don't think that had anything to do with the 2 wines. Not really. It's just, that's just what we looked at. I looked at what you did and said that was kind of cool, and you looked at what I did and said that was kind of cool, and we tried this different. But your vineyard or your player board looked completely different in that second game from what mine did or what yours did in the first game. So there's just so many things you can do, and it's all done in so few moves. That's the thing. You never have enough money. You never have enough actions. You never have enough time. So it's this game that seems like it's going to be super long and everything, but it goes by so quickly, and you're like, really? It's over? I'm out of actions? And I think that's great. Any game that leaves you going, I just need one more turn. That's a good game.
That's a good game. No, I like that.
So that was, we played that 2 times in a row, which never happens with any game.
How long? Usually. Like we were playing for 6 hours?
4 or 5. Well, probably, yeah. Probably.
With both games. Yeah. I think it was more like 6 hours. Yeah.
And it didn't seem like that long.
No, because I wanted to play Mice and Mystics, and then by the time we were done, I'm like, damn, it's bedtime.
It's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's bedtime. We're old people. So that is Vinhos, and we have the Z-Man edition, which I think only went 1 print run. It's been published by What's Your Game, Z-Man, and now there's a new deluxe version with the Ian O'Toole artwork by Eagle Griffin Games. And that is like $129, I think, for that version with all the Kickstarter stuff. So that's why I have the older version. But actually, I prefer, I think, this art style versus the new one. It's a little too it works in another game, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But I like the version that we have. I think it works perfectly the way it's laid out. And that's designed by Vital Lacerda. And that leads me into a game that I played a few days before that Lee wasn't there. It was at game night with the 417 Gamers. And I played Lisboa by the same designer, Vital Lacerda. It's his newest game. It just came out to Kickstarter backers. And it's about, he's Portuguese, the designer, right? So that's what Vinhos is wine in Portuguese. And, everything he does, he kind of centers around his hometown. And I don't know if he's from Lisboa or from around the area, just that's a big city in Portugal. And it has a history that back, sometime in the past, it was the victim of an earthquake that caused a tsunami that hit the town, that caused a massive fire that basically destroyed the city of Lisboa. And this game is all about rebuilding it. And I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it because this game is so big and so heavy, like I've heard about Vinhos before. But this one really is we learned it out of the rule book, punched everything out of the box the same night. It took about 4 hours to play it. I don't think that's representative of what it would take. But this game has a 7-page player aid. Every single player gets a player aid that is a book. It is its own rule book, separate from the other rule books. And it has... But it's so perfectly done. The rule book is so good, and this little player aid is so good that anything you could possibly want to know, you don't have to go look it up in the rule book. It's let me just look at my little player aid, and it's there, and you can look up every symbol and everything. But it's basically a card-driven game where your cards are multi-action, and you have a player board that you can either put the cards in the player board on the top or the bottom to do things, or play them to the main board and do some little worker placement stuff and influence these nobles in the city. And it's all about rebuilding it and building little spots in the city. And It is probably the best Euro game I've played up to this point. Just the idea that it's so flexible, it's so smooth, and it's so heavy. Like, there are a lot of rules, but every single rule makes sense. Once you figure out what's going on, you're like, okay, this doesn't exist for no reason. It's kind of like in Vinhos. In Vinhos, when you look at everything, you start seeing how all the pieces start working together. When at first they look like, what the, you look at that board and it's very confusing. Same thing in this game. It has the Ian O'Toole artwork, which works very well for this game. It looks kind of like, think money, like artwork on money from all over the world. You think of that style, that cross-hatch artwork where everything's shaded with cross-hatching and stuff. It's like that. So it looks like you get Chinese money or something when you bring home, and it's such beautiful artwork on there. It looks different from what we're used to. That's kind of the style of this. Very blue, is the color. And it's a really beautiful game. The production is over the top. Eagle Griffin, everything they do, production is crazy. And I would really like to buy it. I'm concerned that if you played it and didn't like it, that it would never ever get played again. But I think you would. It's just the learning curve. Now, if I played it one or two more times, I could probably teach it like that.
That makes a big difference for me. Like, if you already know the game and then you go to teach it, it helps because you're not having to constantly go into the rule book, and that makes me learning a lot easier and a lot smoother, and makes me not. I know this sounds horrible, but it's like, oh God, we're looking at the rule book again. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
So that really does help if you know what's going on before you teach me.
Believe me, the one barrier, the reason I don't play more big games like that, I have these big, huge games that I haven't even played because I'm terrified to teach them. It's not like I fully will understand how the game works and everything, but unless I've actually gone through a whole game and played it, then I do not feel confident of saying, let's sit down, I'm going to teach you every in and out of this game like we have through the ages. And I remember learning that game and setting it up one day and bringing you down. I did the wrong thing. If I would have done it like I did Vinhos and I would have said, hey, this game's easy. Let me teach it to you. It all makes perfect sense because it really does once you get going. I was like, okay, now I want you to know, this is a heavy game. It's going to take about 3 hours. And you were like, really? And you were out right then. You were checked out. And I got through I got through teaching it and like the first move. And you were like, I was like, you don't really want to play this, dude. And you're like, no. And I was like, shit. So I just had spent like an hour and a half setting it up and everything. And you were just like, not into it. Had I presented it in a better way with more confidence in my ability to teach it, we probably would have played it.
Well,
and it
you
would have
did
been
really
fine.
good teaching Vinhos too. You were like, okay, make this short and sweet.
And I did, yeah. And
You
I was
did.
like,
You totally did. Like, you didn't I wasn't sitting there for 30 minutes while you were explaining every single card and every single move.
Yeah. And I think you can only do that if you do know the game and you're confident that you can teach it as you play.
I learned so much better that way.
Yeah, I understand it, but it's a tough way. Like I said, I'm always evolving and trying to learn how to teach a game better. And I think you got to really know the game to be able to teach it. And the whole thing is brevity. Tell them only what they really need to know and then tell them the rest as you go along, So Lisboa basically is the reason why I bought Vinhos, because I was like, well, I'm not prepared to spend 100 plus on this brand new big heavy game, but I'm like, he does have a wine making game that is basically a classic.
It was super fun.
And I was like, I'll get that one, and Lee will like it just based on, well, she will at least try it based on the theme, and hopefully she'll like it.
It's just wine making.
And we liked it. And now we both know how to play it, so we can pull that at any time. So that's basically my Vital Lacerda hour. He has a lot of other games that do not interest me just based on the theme, like The Gallerist I'd like to try, about running an art gallery. He has one called Kanban that I played about making cars in a factory, which is to me, it was very boring. And he has another game called CO2 that was one of his first games that's about kind of a competitive game where you're trying to not let the pollution in the world get too high, but you're a business, so you're trying to make money, but everyone's trying to work together to not let pollution get too high. And it just seemed too convoluted.
Is it based in Hong Kong?
I don't know. It's based all around the world. So I think you could be like an Asian, or sector, and then, different parts of the world. I don't really know. I've never played it. It just turned me off from the theme. Not the theme wouldn't be good, but just sounded really convoluted. But everything he's doing lately, I'm pretty impressed with his. He might be the top of the heap of the Euro game designers.
So speaking of themes, what's some of your favorite themes?
Oh, what are you trying to do, babe? Segue into our main theme.
I was trying. You
Our
didn't have to
main
point it out. I was trying to be cool.
So our feature today, we're going to talk about our favorite themes and a few games that we maybe haven't mentioned too much about in our previous episodes that match those themes. Babe, what's one of your favorite themes?
One of mine, well, we've already been talking about it for half of the episode, and it's winemaking. What?
Yay.
Like anything pretty much that allows me to, well, what am I talking about? I always drink wine, but like, how can you not
Drink wine and play a game about wine.
And play a game about making wine? Like, it's just like the most perfect combination for me. I love it so much. Like, it just makes playing board games for me just one step cooler.
And it doesn't hurt that well, at the same lot that I bought Vinhos in, I bought this other game called Vino, which it's a Rio Grande game that's, 10 years old or whatever. It looks terrible. I want to play it someday just to see how bad it is, but it came with Vinhos, so I was like, but basically the only two wine games we have
Viticulture
are
and Vinhos.
Viticulture and Vinhos, which are both great games, so that doesn't hurt, And
I really appreciated the fact that you participated yesterday and you drank your beer out of a wine glass with me. That was very nice of you.
I tried to be thematic.
You did very good. I'm very proud of you. So that's one of my favorite board game themes these days. What about you?
All right. Well, two of these are kind of a toss-up for my second favorite. I'm going to say the Ancient Gods theme.
Wait a minute. I didn't know we were doing which one was our favorite.
I'm just saving my favorite for last. You pretty much blew your favorite.
Well, no, that's not my
favorite.
favorite.
Okay. I'm going to save my favorite for last. And pretty much anybody who knows me will already know it anyway. But the Ancient Gods theme, be it Roman gods or Greek gods or, anything like that, that is one of my favorite themes. I have tons of games in that genre. One of my favorite games of all time, Cyclades, is that.
Which I hated.
You didn't hate it.
No, I didn't care for it at all because you were the fighter dudes and you completely kicked my ass. And I remember being so angry that because the whole game you were just you had all your army dudes. And you were just killing me the whole game.
Cyclades is interesting. It's a dudes on the map game, which would never appeal to you normally.
No.
But it's not your regular dudes on the map game. It's basically an auction game. They are auctioning off the ability to do something with your dudes on the map. I think it's a very, very genius level design game. I'm not crazy about dudes on the map games, but that's my favorite. One of my favorite games. Yeah, that theme is great, and I think it works perfect. And then the same line of games is Kemet, which you've never played because, again, it's a dudes on the map game, but it's also one of the smoothest, quickest playing one. It's not necessarily like Risk or anything. It's more of a Euro style war game where it's about positioning and timing and just like, pulling off that quick maneuver that nobody else sees coming. And it's about using cards in the right way and stuff like that. And then also I thought I'd throw in something we hadn't talked much about, which was Santorini, which is that new 2-player game that we play that has the beautiful production with the raised island of Santorini.
Is that one with the blue?
Yeah, the blue cap. So basically, the whole point of the game is you have two little pawns and their little figures and their little tiny god tile, or I think they're like Greek. I don't know.
They're Greek gods.
They're Greek dudes,
yeah.
And basically they're using you represent a type of god that you deal out your power at the beginning of the game, and every god has these completely asymmetric powers. Like one could be, if you get to the second level of one of these buildings and jump off, you win. And so the other person playing is also trying to. The whole point of the game is to build up these buildings to a level 3 and stand on that third level. And then you win. If you get one of your dudes standing on that thing, and so you're trying to move one guy somewhere to fake them out, or use both of them in tandem to build and move, and to get up there real quick. And then some of them can just destroy a piece from the bottom, or somebody, but you can block by putting your person on top of that thing. Then they can't get up there, stuff like that. And the gods are so different, and like some gods have extra pieces and extra boards, and like they have like screens that you have to hide your stuff behind. I mean, they just have so much going on. I think that's a really good use of the god theme in an abstract game to make it have a lot of theme. Because basically it could just be like a chess style game, but it gives it all that theme with the pieces.
Actually building castles.
The 3D pieces and all that. It's a beautiful game. And now Target is selling a version of it. It has a little bit subpar pieces than the original, but not too much. The original game is published by Roxley Games, and it was a really over-the-top production. Target has a version now for $20 that you can buy, which is, if you can find that at a Target for $20, buy that game because it is awesome. And it still has the same little plastic pieces and stuff. I think it just has a little bit not as cool a 3D board. But so that's my theme, the ancient gods. What's one more of yours?
One more of mine is murder mystery. I really enjoy that theme of games. So like Clue, like I've been playing Clue since I was a kid. The board game, the Nintendo game, or, you know what I mean? Like I am a nerd and I like Clue. I like to make notes. I like to have to keep track of clues and and be secretive and have my pencil and my paper and write everything down. Like I really enjoy that. What's the next one?
Clue's a solid game. Still to this day, Clue is a solid game.
It is.
I don't like it because it's so straightforward. Like it's really, nowadays, after playing so many other this type of deduction games, it's very straightforward. Like it's pretty easy to win. Clue's pretty easy, but it didn't used to be when I was a kid.
Back in the day, that was the hardest game to
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
And like, did you ever play the TV version?
The DVD version or
yeah,
whatever?
well, yeah, like we had it like on a Nintendo or something like that.
Nintendo? No.
And so like literally the whole family would have to like close their eyes while it was one person's turn, But it was so much fun.
Nobody ever cheated at that.
No,
I'm sure.
no.
Yeah, geez, I would have cheated. I'm like, there's no way I could win this
But
game.
it was so much fun. So let's see. Another one is Sherlock Holmes and the Consulting Detective.
Not and, the.
Oh, sorry.
Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
Well, shut up, Ben.
I don't even think it's the. It's just
Consulting
Detective.
So that's another murder mystery game.
We talked about that a lot on our last episode.
We did. So we won't go to.
It's a really good one though. That's one of the best in this field, I think, of.
I disagree.
Mystery games. Oh.
I disagree to that. I would say that Mysterium.
Yeah,
Mysterium is fun. Like that is a fun murder mystery game.
It's in the name, Mysterium.
It is, totally is.
Someday you need to play the ghost in Mysterium.
No, I'd be horrible at the ghost. And so then my last one on my list is Bloody Inn.
Oh, the Bloody Inn. We haven't ever talked about that here.
Well, yeah. So the Bloody Inn, we've played several times, and us and Vaughn have played, and I have yet to play the game with the same set of rules.
Yeah.
My husband,
you
change the rules every time we play. Oh, well, this was wrong. Oh, well, you weren't supposed to play with this every single time. Not even twice have I played with the same set of rules.
But hasn't it been fun every time?
It has been. That's the thing.
That's the
it's
beauty
been
of that
fun
game.
every time.
So I finally played it with the right rules, and here's what happened in that game. Okay. Most of the time when I get it's a small box card game, and the whole theme of it is you are a French inn owner and it's based on a true story. I think it's like in the 1800s, these French inn owners took in travelers and then killed them and stole their money and then buried them under the thing, and then the cops found out about it, and it was this big scandal back then. So it's based on that, and that's what you're doing. You're owning an inn. And it's kind of abstracted because you're all owning parts of the same inn, but you have your own rooms that you get people into. And then you decide to either bribe them to be on your side to help kill other people, or you kill them and then you have to bury them. And it's all just card management and hand management. It's a great game.
It's such a fun
And the
game.
artwork is really cool and really evocative of the theme. Here's the thing. Most of the time I get a simple card game like that, I skim over the rules.
You totally don't even
Or I
read.
watch a video and I'm like, yeah, I know how to play this. And so I threw it out there, and like the first time we played it, awesome. We all loved it, but we didn't play it right. We got half the turns that we would normally get in a game because I didn't realize that you took 2 phases every night you get 2 turns every time. So we did that wrong. And then we did something about the way you launder money wrong. And then we did something about, until the last time I played, I never got this one rule right where there's these peasants. So you start out with peasants in your hand, and every time you play one, they go down to the middle of the board and then other people can take them. what I didn't realize is that you can't only take just one. You can take 2 every time you do that.
I didn't know you could take 2.
Yeah, that's the final rule that I actually went and read the entire rule book, and I was like, okay, I got that right. I got that
We're
right.
totally playing that this weekend.
I was like, oh, what is that? You can take 2 of those, which makes a big difference in the
well,
game.
hell yeah, it does.
So yeah, now I finally know how to play this game after playing it about 5 times.
We're totally playing it again this
The
weekend.
Bloody End is really cool.
It is. It's fun.
It's one of the. I was going to bring that up in one of mine, but that's perfect. So the next one I'm going to talk about is very vague because I really didn't know how to explain it, but it's basically 17th or 18th century building of anything. That's one of the themes that I like just what are sometimes known as the DSEs or dry soulless Euro games, where the cover just has an old dude staring off at you or over a city somewhere.
Those are my least favorite.
No, you like the games. You just think they look boring because the games that I'm going to talk about, I think you like most of them. So one of them I'm going to bring up that's like that is Village.
I do love Village.
Village is awesome. Village is about building up a town and you're managing your family's lineage as they go to work and they grow older and eventually they die. But the whole time they're trying to build up this village and make you prosperous in the church and in the stables and in the markets and stuff. And it just has that old timey Euro. The idea is like when I think of a Euro game, I think of these kind of games. I think of these games. They're not set in modern times. They're set in this 17th, 18th century farming, village building where everything's primitive, and it's not like high tech stuff. So Village is one that I really love. And then Ulm, which is about building this German city of Ulm that was like a giant trade route back in the 1700s or something, maybe even before that. And that has one of the most unique action selections I've ever seen. There's this 3x3 grid, and what you do on your turn is you pull a tile out of the bag, and it has an action on it. And there's these other actions in this 3x3 grid, and you have to take that tile that you drew and push in one of the sides of that 3x3 grid, thus pushing one of them out and pushing yours in, and whatever row or column you do that on, you get those 3 actions. And then you have to they'll let you move your boat up the river and take actions in the city about building up reputation in the city or getting control of these buildings. And then if anybody else goes there, you get points. And some will let you, what's some of the other things you can do? Trade in 2 tiles to get these cards that at the end of the game, if you have certain sets of cards, then you can score big points by doing
married,
that.
You go to the farm.
No. No. What are you talking about?
Aren't we talking about Village?
No, I'm talking about Ulm.
Oh, shit.
You're not even listening, are you? And you've played this game several times.
Crap.
You know which one I'm talking about?
No, I like when you're
Village has nothing to do with what I just said.
I know. You were sitting here pushing it up and going to the boat. I was like, you don't have that in Village.
No. Well, we
'Cause
had to
you
take a
weren't
sneeze
talking.
break because
I'm
you
sorry.
blew up the microphone with a sneeze. So there's an edit point there that you guys missed. So between that, Leandra's brain came out of her nose and she doesn't remember what we're talking about. So no, I'm talking about Ulm now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And you've played this, and that's one where you got to get your little boat all the way up the river or you score negative points. Anyway, it falls into this, 17th, 18th century old-time building of anything. And it's usually in a foreign country. And the last one I'll talk about on that one is Murano. Murano is a really cool rondel game where it's about, I think Murano's in Italy, and it's where some of the most precious glass pieces come from in the world. So some people have in their collection, they'll have I got a Murano glass vase or whatever. And this game is about building those glass factories and stuff. You move these little gondolas around the outside of the board, and you have to, pay money to move someone else out of the way. And wherever you land, you get an action based on that. Then you take those actions and you use them to build in the middle of the board, like on these islands. You're building roads that lead to your factories, and then you're getting customers to go to these factories, and you reach in these bags and pull out these crystals, and they represent the different kinds of colors of glass that you can do. It's a really good game. So that's Murano. Then what's your last theme, babe?
My last theme is Gothic horror.
Yeah.
So that's like my favorite. That is my favorite. It beats the wine. It beats the murder mystery.
Really?
It does. I really, okay. Well, maybe it's tied with murder mystery. I really enjoy it. So one of the things on the Gothic horror list for me is the Arkham Horror card game.
Yes.
I enjoyed that, and I just found out that you have traded that off.
Yeah, it was a real pain in the ass to set up.
It was, but it was so much fun.
But I really found myself, like, I didn't have a good way I hadn't figured out a way to store it that made sense. So every time we started to play, it took me, like, longer to set it up than it did for us to play, which was really a downer for me. And it was like a headache. By the time I had it set up to play, I was like, I don't even want to play this anymore. It was fun. It's a very good Cthulhu Mythos game. It uses a bag draw instead of dice, which is interesting but weird. You know, it's like, I don't know. I liked it, but I didn't like it enough to put up with the hassle that it was to. And I bought all these expansions for it stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
You did. You had tons of it.
I was all in, but then I just was like, God, after like the third time playing it, I was like, it's such a pain in the dick to get out and get ready. And I was like, you weren't helping me with that surely. So it just literally the last time I think I got a huge headache setting it up, like a literal headache. And I was like, this is for the birds, man. There's 1,000 cards here and I have to sort out. And then what I learned was that same company, it's made by Fantasy Flight. They did the Lord of the Rings card game that it's based on. It's based on a system that they put out a bajillion expansions of this Lord of the Rings one. And then I played it. My friend Matt has it. And he showed me how the setup for the Lord of the Rings one goes. It's so easy. They made it so much more convoluted. It basically says, here's the scenario, and there's a deck of cards for that scenario, and you just take that and you set it out, and then you start playing. In the Arkham Horror one, it was like, take this card from this deck, this 3 cards from this deck, this 4 cards from this deck, and they all had different symbols on them. So you had to dig through every single card to find the specific ones. It was just too much of a hassle for me.
I liked it.
It was good. It was a good game. I'll say that.
But I never had to set it up. So
yeah.
So another one in my Gothic horror list is Mansions of Madness.
Yes.
We've already talked about this game, but it's just a fun game. It really is.
With the app integration, it really makes it into just a very singular type of game. There's not really any other, like you literally could set anybody around who's never even played a board game and be like, let's go through a haunted house thing. And they would get it right off the bat.
I just
like
what I mean? the dark and mysterious and the feel of that game. Like it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's like Halloween every time we play it. And
that's
I think
2
that's
Cthulhu games in a row, babe. You're trying to steal my thunder.
I know. Hey, didn't you and Steve play that game this weekend?
Hey, good. Thanks for your segues are on point, babe. You caught me so off guard. I about broke my neck. I got whiplash on that segue. Yes, I have some audio that we recorded with Steve that's been burning a hole in my pocket here, and I'll play that right now because this is his first time playing Mansions of Madness. He was very excited to do it, and he got out and came down, made the trip over here, and he and I and Vaughn played, and here's his first impressions. Let's listen. All right, we just finished playing Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, and this is Steve's first time playing. What did you think of it and the system and how it works and plays out all together?
I thought it was a lot better than first edition. Not having to have a overlord was real good. Made it feel like you're really on the same team, same agenda until Vaughn went insane, and then we had no idea what the agenda was. The app was good. It was integrated well. It didn't feel like I was just playing an app. It felt like we were still playing a board game with just a lot less to keep track of. I liked it.
Good deal. So we played the intro scenario, which I've played this thing about, I think, 5 times now, and I had skipped the intro scenario. I think it was perfect to bring out for a pretty quick night. It took about 90 minutes to play, which is what it estimates. Vaughn, you were the only loser here at the table tonight because you did not meet your insanity win condition. How was that?
What can I say? I spent my time healing and trying to work for the group win, and I went insane trying to help other people. This is a very good metaphor for life. So I think it's a good Good game.
You didn't try and heal anybody.
You healed yourself.
both of you.
Physician, heal thyself. That is Vaughn's whole credo. All right.
Both of you people.
So that's a first impression of Mansions of Madness, second edition. All right. That was Steve's first impressions of one of Leandra's favorite gothic horror games,
Yes.
Mansions of Madness.
I have one more on my list. So,
What is it?
Time Stories and the Asylum version of Time
The
Stories.
very first scenario in Time Stories.
Loved it.
Yes.
I think we played it twice. Didn't we
Well,
play-
that's the whole point of it. Yeah, we played
no,
it.
I mean like the Asylum version.
No, we played it
did.
one time. No, we played it 3 times, but that's basically one play because
That's
the whole
true.
point of it is
Okay.
you have to go back and redo it.
So much fun. Like
Yeah.
I enjoyed the heck out of that version of it.
That was the thing that I still think to this day that game of that may be the best gaming experience we've ever had
so much fun.
because it's full of surprises and it's something that you've never
And
seen
it's
done.
my note taking. I had to take notes
You
the
take
whole
notes,
time.
and they came back to actually mean something, and and it was a game that was like no other game we'd ever played before. It was basically a choose your own adventure done in exactly the right way with all these different puzzles and interactions. So it was like an RPG but also a puzzle, and I don't want to give spoilers about it because if you haven't played it.
Yeah, I don't.
But here's the problem with what I think, and we said we would talk about Time Stories. So here it was all downhill. Time Stories is basically you buy a module. It's like buying a game and then you get a deck of cards. And that deck of cards is a certain type of theme. The first one that comes in the box is the Asylum, which in my opinion is by far the best one. And so it sets you up and it's like, wow, this game is amazing because Asylum is amazing. Now I've heard people that didn't like it. I don't
How
understand
could they not like
the
the
Asylum and that
Asylum?
they like the second one, which is the Marcy case, better.
Which one was the Marcy case?
It was the zombie one.
Oh, I hated that one.
We never even finished it. Yeah, neither one of us. It changed in tone so much, and the mechanics of it changed so much. But basically, the game itself is a blank slate, and they can just play. It's got dice that have symbols on it, and those symbols can mean different things depending on the kind of the deck of cards that you have, and all the places on the board can do different things based on the scenario and the deck that you're playing. And we played the Asylum, which was amazing. We played Marcy Case, which we didn't even finish.
Then we tried one more.
We played 2 more. Then we played the Under the Mask, which was pretty good. It was an Egyptian themed one, and we finished that one.
Yeah.
But what happens is here's the mechanic of the game is you have a certain amount of time to solve this in, right? But it's designed that you're not gonna do it on the first time through probably. So you then have to reset and start over again. Sometimes you might keep a card or two, but most of the time you're starting over from scratch and you just know where to go faster because you've done it. That's the part that was interesting in the first one. In the Asylum, we were willing to do it. But after that, we were like, no, I don't want to start over. After playing for 2 hours, I don't want to start over now, So we basically just started disregarding the whole point of the game, which is the time limit, and just playing it out, which was still fun if the scenario was good. And the Egyptian one was good.
It wasn't bad. I mean,
It was good. It wasn't as good as
Asylum.
Asylum, but it was good. And then we played the last one we tried, which I think was good, but I just don't know. It was the Prophecy of Dragons, which was kind of a Dungeons and Dragons style one.
I don't even remember that one.
That was the one where I got the dude's furry underpants at the beginning. I don't want to say how that happens, but yeah, you can end up with thinking you're getting something cool and getting furry underpants. But it was pretty interesting, and it had an interesting way at the middle where it basically gave you a break. It had a built-in break where you didn't have to start over. If you made it to a certain spot, it was kind of like a save point where it was like, okay, now everything resets and you get some more life and more time and stuff, which hadn't happened in any of the other ones, which I thought was pretty good. But we paused it there basically and then never went back to it. And I got rid of Time Stories because I was like, I'm out. They're just going to keep making them. And everything I've heard is that since that one, none of the other ones that have come out yet have been any good. So that's just people's opinion. But that one play of Time Stories,
Asylum was awesome.
it's probably worth the price of the game itself
Yeah.
just to play that for one time. And that's the problem. Once you played it once, you can't play it again.
Well, you can't play it again.
You know the secrets, and there's a lot of games coming out like that. We're going to do a feature on the escape room type games that in the future episode, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. That's the one that kicked it off. That disposable game kick, and it was good, and then it just got bad.
Yep.
So, all right, my last one has been covered by you, basically.
Sorry.
No, but anybody that knows me knows that my favorite theme is the Cthulhu Mythos theme. And, we talked about that in the last episode, and that's what led to my rant that got me called a racist.
Stop it.
But some ones that we haven't mentioned, because I have a ton of Cthulhu games, But one of my all-time favorites that I don't think I mentioned earlier is A Study in Emerald. It's a straight-up Euro game by Martin Wallace, and it's an area-controlled deck-building game, but the theme is the coolest part about it, because it's based on a Neil Gaiman short story that ties together Sherlock Holmes and Cthulhu, two of our favorite type things together in one game that you can't beat. The story's awesome. It basically hinges around we live in a time where it's the 18th century and, Sherlock Holmes' time, and Cthulhu and the old ones have won already. They've taken over the world, and we're just living in it. And Sherlock Holmes basically takes cases for the royal, old ones. And there are people that are trying to restore the world back to humans being in control and fight back, and there are people who are loyal to the old gods. And this game basically plays on that, where you kind of have hidden roles, and you could have someone else that's on the same team as you, but you don't really know. And if you assassinate them during the game, that's negative points. You're trying to determine what side everybody's on, and then play that kind of tug of war with the score track. It's an interesting game. Another one, which we both really like, is The Witch of Salem. And that is a cooperative game, sort of pandemic-like.
With awesome artwork.
Yeah, got really, really good artwork. It's about moving around the town of Salem and fighting off monsters and trying not to let the old ones get woken up. And you got to basically discover all these gates and lock them down before the final old one, before Cthulhu wakes up. Or the final old one. It could not be Cthulhu. It's kind of randomized. But basically, it's a timer mechanism. And it's got this weird thing where you can go to one of these gates and you can look at it if you have the right stuff. But you're not supposed to tell anybody what you see, which I think is weird in that game because it's hard not to do. All it does is it makes you invent ways to tell them without telling them if you want to play by the rules. So you basically have to be like, okay, I looked at the thing. It is a gate because there's a couple of them that aren't even gates. And if you lock one of those down at the end of the game, you lose. So even if you think you've won, you got to go through and check all the gates and make sure that the ones you locked were actually gates. If you tried to lock one down that wasn't actually a gate, you lose the game immediately. So you're basically going, okay, we don't have to worry about this anymore, but you're not saying that it is, but you roundabout are. So I don't really know how you could play it without doing that, So that's a really good one. Kind of hard to come by now. I got lucky and found it at a flea market at a convention, and I was very glad I did. Another one is Cthulhu Gloom. This is one of Leandra's favorite. We've only played it a couple of times.
Is that the one with the clear cards?
Yeah. And the whole thing of Gloom of itself is that it's a game about telling stories about depressed people and trying to kill them off your family, basically. And Cthulhu
It's
Gloom
a great game.
Adds the Cthulhu mythos on top of that, which is basically like, not only are you trying to kill your family, you're trying to make them go crazy and get, carried off by shoggoths.
With really cool artwork.
Yeah, so they basically, you use these transparent cards. They have transparencies on them, and you can add different traits to your different characters by adding cards on top of them, those transparent cards, so they stack up, and then you give them some more traits. And the whole idea is to just be as miserable as you can when you die. So the more miserable you are when you kill off your family member, the more points you score, and you're basically trying to make your opponent's family happier, which is weird, instead of making them depressed. That's another one that just takes that theme and really just twists it, in a new way, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's pretty much all of our favorite themes. I've got Cthulhu, 17th and 18th century building anything, ancient gods, and Leeandra had
winemaking, murder mystery, and gothic horror.
I think that really is a pretty good representation of the things that we really like in themes of games. If it's about any of those things, we're pretty much down to play them.
Pretty much.
So now we're going to take a little break, and then we'll be back with IRL.
IRL.
All right, we're back. You just heard our new theme song for IRL. What'd you think about that, babe?
Honey, that was so fantastic. You did so good. I'm
You're
so
full
proud
of shit.
of you,
I haven't even
honey.
recorded it yet.
I'm not supposed to call me out, honey.
Oh, you haven't
It
even
was
recorded it yet.
so great.
But I will have had recorded. How would you say?
I don't know.
I will have had recorded it
I
by
will
the
have
time,
had, yeah.
and you will have heard it by now. So anyway, I needed to do that, and so now I'll still have to.
I think it's fantastic.
Future me has already done it. So IRL, babe, what's going
IRL.
on in real life?
So, update on last week.
Update, live news update.
Boob Sweat has gone away.
Completely?
Completely. My phone has been restored. It just vanished on its own. I no longer have Boob Sweat in my camera.
All right. Yay.
Super excited about that. Thank you.
All right.
I even went jogging today and I was like, hell no, am I not putting this in my bra today?
Yeah, I don't recommend doing
I'm
that
not ever
anymore.
doing it again.
Just put it down your pants next time. It'll be Boob Sweat Gate. Oh, God.
That's so
I might
fucking
have
gross.
to edit that. Never. All right. So that's taken care of now. The whole world was wondering.
Yes, they were. They wanted my update. So the other thing on IRL is we officially have a third grader.
Almost 1 day, 2 days away
We
from
took her
having
to
a third
open
grade.
house today. We met her
Mhm.
teacher. She has several of her friends in class, babe.
This
This
could be
is going
trouble.
to be a problem.
She's going to get in trouble so much from
She
talking.
is going to get in so much trouble. Her little friend next door, her
Yeah.
little friend from daycare. Like, she's screwed.
Yeah, she's going to get in trouble because she's already a talker. And, oh, well, at least she'll have good friends to talk to whilst getting in trouble.
She's like her mother.
Yeah.
Get in trouble for talking all the time. So
And she's like you and me, so she'll either get in trouble for talking or for drawing when
one
she's
of the
supposed to be
two.
doing other things.
One
yeah.
of the two.
So, well, third grade should be fun. New school, new
The
challenges.
whole new school and then the school bus thing.
She's going to start riding the school
Oh
bus
my
to school and
gosh.
home and stuff. She got a cell phone.
a key to the door, the whole 9 yards. Like, mommy
It's
is
big.
not ready for this.
That's big. We'll see how it works. I think it all might fall apart in the first week and we'll have to go back to the old way of taking her to school. But no, I think she can do it. She's really not fazed by things like that. That's the other thing. She takes all this stuff in stride. Like, she gets a little stressed out at the beginning, but by the end of the first week, it'll be
it's
her
not
routine.
like she's a normal kid either. Like, she's got, like 3 days coming home, 1 day at dance, 1 day at daycare. Like, she's got, 3 different things to do throughout the week. And
But that's normal for her. So,
it is. Like,
she'll roll with it a lot better than we will, pretty much. So,
yeah. My 8-year-old rolls with it better than I do.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's following the bus, making sure she gets home okay for the first day of school. And,
Yes, mother hen. That's you.
I'll have you know, that first time, remember when she tried her first day getting off the bus at Rita's, we were waiting for her to get off the bus. And if we
Yeah.
were not there, she didn't fucking get off the bus. And my ass got out of that damn car and I was like, my baby is inside this bus.
Yep,
and if
I
I
remember.
wasn't there stalking, like a good
And it's
mommy
just because
should
she wasn't
be,
paying attention,
yeah, the bus would have just took her on down the road.
There's a good chance she'll do that from time to time, I imagine, but I guess we'll see. I mean,
Stalking the bus pays off.
yes, it did. And I'll probably do that the first day of school and make sure she gets off and everything. But that's why we got her a cell phone, so that her whole thing is as soon as you get home and you're safe, because she's only going to be home for like 5 minutes before I get home from work. But I think it's good for her
It is
to
good
have
for
responsibility
her.
like
It
that.
is.
So she's got to call me as soon as she gets home and gets in the door, and
Let
start
the
doing her
dogs
homework.
out and
She got to call me on her
homework.
cell phone and let me know she's safe. That's the whole thing. So, yeah, it's a big step, but
It is.
I think
It's
she's ready for it,
huge.
and I'm ready to see her.
Mommy's not
do
ready
it.
for it.
See, I'm always we differ in that way where like you don't want to see her grow up, and I like seeing her and take on new challenges and stuff like that because you can't stop it. So you might as well, in my opinion, I just want to embrace it and see her I want to see her grow instead of just regret her growing. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't regret it. I just don't want it to happen.
I know. I get it. I don't either, but
I
it's
just want
the way
her to
of the
be my
world.
3-year-old forever.
Yep. Well, she's not been that for 5 years now. So, well, that's it. Emotional parenting moment.
know. So I have another IRL that I didn't say I was going to mention, but I thought it would be fun to get your initial reaction while we were live.
Oh, God.
So there's a song that you've been singing all weekend that I thought might be fun if you wanted to share with our
Oh, God.
listeners, baby.
I thought you were going to tell me you're pregnant or something.
No, I wish. No.
Oh, do you mean this burrito? A little bit of beans and cheese, yo. The perfect mix of rice and beans, yo. All I want to do is eat this burrito. You mean that song?
He has been singing that song with those horribly funny lyrics since like Saturday night.
Oh, it's the best.
It's been so good.
This burrito. Oh my God, I'm so sick of that song. It's on 20 times every 5 minutes.
What are
It's
you talking about?
ridiculous.
It's been on repeat on our damn house for since
I know.
Saturday night.
It's worse than getting like a regular song stuck in your head is when you get the fake lyrics you made up to the song that you hate stuck in your head. Oh, it's the worst. We got to end this, babe. This thing is like a minute or an hour and like 12 minutes long.
Oh, geez.
already.
Sorry, everybody.
So, yeah. So just remember, now it's stuck in your head too. And it's. So on that note, we must move on and call a close to episode 5 of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week where we're going to talk about our favorite mechanics in games.
Yes,
We've talked
mechanics.
themes, and now we're going to talk mechanics. So we'll see y'all next week.
God,
Say bye, babe.
Bye, babe.
Later.
Oh, gosh.
Thanks again for listening to the NSFWP podcast. You can find us on the web at nsfwppodcast.com and on Facebook and Twitter at NSFWP Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at Meeple of Madness. Come on back next week for another great episode.
Hello and welcome to the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast. Shit, I did it again. Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the shit. God damn it. Welcome to the I don't got it.